To the Middle East now, where the US and Iran have agreed a framework deal to end the war. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and major European countries have all welcomed the agreement. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened as part of the agreement. Let the oil flow, he wrote. Prices have fallen since the announcement. Pakistan, which mediated the deal, made the announcement late on Sunday. It said military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, will end. Israel is yet to comment. And as well as Iran allowing ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, the US blockade on Iranian ports will also end. The official agreement is expected to be signed in Switzerland on Friday. It all comes as President Trump heads to the G7 summit in France, where world leaders are gathering. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed the deal in a press conference at Downing Street.
I want first to welcome the breakthrough reached last night between the US and Iran. And I congratulate President Trump, the mediators from Pakistan and Qatar, and all those involved. This is a hugely significant moment. We have long called for de-escalation, and it is vital that all parties seize this opportunity to secure stability in the region and restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, which in turn will ease the economic pressures felt by people here in the United Kingdom and around the world. We will now work closely with our partners to support this agreement and to ensure it turns into a durable, lasting peace.
Well, as mentioned, President Trump is now on his way to France and the G7, where Iran will be one of the pressing issues up for discussion. Well, we can cross live now to Christian Fraser, who's there in Evian. Christian?
Catherine, thank you very much. Yes, the beautiful French spa town of Evian. What a glorious setting we have behind us this morning. Bright blue sky over Lake Geneva. We've been watching the ferries go back and forth to the city of Lausanne on the opposite bank. The eagles are pitching and soaring over the roof of the hotel where the leaders will be gathered later today. It's just down here over my right shoulder. None of the leaders really here, aside from President Macron, who of course is hosting, and President Lula da Silva of Brazil. Donald Trump due here at around 4:45 later this afternoon. And I think it's fair to say that the agreement which was announced late last night has certainly shifted the tenor of this meeting. A statement was put out this morning from the Europeans welcoming the agreement, an opportunity, they said, to stabilise the region and also create some stability in the global economy. It's vital, they said, that the detailed negotiation gets underway and that the agreement is adopted in full and comprehensively. And we stand ready, they said, to assist in that effort. But of course, there's so much we don't yet know about the detail, notwithstanding the signatures that need to be applied to it in Geneva, just down the road from Evian on Friday. So no doubt Iran will be part of the discussions tomorrow. President Macron has invited the Gulf Arab states, so Saudi Arabia here, the UAE, Qatar, the Egyptians are also here, and they will form, of course, a crucial part of what happens next in the region. So let's get a view on where we're at. We can speak to Mehran Kamrava. He is Professor of Government at Georgetown University in Doha, Qatar. It's good to have you with us, Mr. Kamrava, on the programme. What more do you need to know about this deal to be satisfied that it's taking us in the right direction?
Well, we've been here before on at least two occasions, in June of 2025 and in February of 2026. And both times, just as we were on the precipice of an agreement, things fell apart by an attack on Iran. So let's hope that this time is the charm, third time is the charm, and that indeed the framework that will be outlined in the MOU will bear fruit over the next 60 days.
Precarious even to the last moment yesterday. There was an expletive-filled exchange between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, we're told, over the bombing of Beirut, which almost derailed the agreement at the very last. But it is interesting that Lebanon is part of the agreement, as has been spelt out by the Americans.
Absolutely, Christian. And I think Donald Trump is well aware that Israel continues to remain the wild card here because, as you well know, Netanyahu is not fully on board with this peace agreement, or at least the MOU. Iran has emerged in some ways, not in every way, but in some ways, it has emerged with a stronger hand, at least militarily, strategically, but certainly not economically. And Netanyahu is not thrilled by any stretch of imagination. And I think we can expect over the next 60 days that the Israeli prime minister will do what he can, if not necessarily to undermine the agreement, but certainly to not make it easy for the Iranians or the Americans.
What is of note is that last night, on his 80th birthday, and while the ultimate Fight Club fight was taking place on the White House lawns, Donald Trump called David Sanger of the New York Times twice, unprompted, to put his spin on what this agreement means. He's put some of the detail in there that perhaps might not be in the Memorandum of Understanding. If you were to look back at where we were in February in Geneva, just down the road, how much further on do you think we are?
Well, it's really hard to tell because we don't know precisely what the terms of the MOU or the agreement to come are. But I think you're absolutely right in the sense that Donald Trump is quite keen to put his own spin on the agreement, to present this as some sort of decisive victory for the United States in general and for himself in particular. And of course, the Iranians are doing the same thing for their own part. They're presenting the MOU as a decisive victory for themselves. So both sides are claiming victory in the signing of this MOU.
Meham Kamarava, thank you very much. Yes, if you were to look at the outset at what Donald Trump put on the table back in February, it was regime change, it was an end to the ballistic missile program, it was the removal of the nuclear fissile material, all of which still remains in place. In fact, you could say the Iranian regime looks even stronger at this point than it did back in February, now that it has some control and has shown how it can exercise control over the Strait of Hormuz. And no doubt the leaders of the Gulf countries who come here might speak on the sidelines about how the stability in their region has been shattered by what has happened in the last 4 months. Well, it was the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif who announced the agreement had been finalised late last night, and of course it is Field Marshal Asif Munir who has been going back and forth to Tehran to negotiate with the Iranians. So let's bring in Pakistani journalist and security analyst Zahid Hussain, who might be able to tell us a little bit more about what is being said there in Pakistan. Do you have any more detail, Zahid, on what is included and what is not included in the Memorandum of Understanding?
Well, Pakistan certainly has played a very significant role in mediating this deal, although the details have not been out yet. But certain Pakistani leaders have said, like Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in his social media message said that it also includes the ceasefire in Lebanon. And I think that's clear that it will lead to opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the end of American blockade of Iranian ports. So that is a positive development, and Pakistan sees it as a diplomatic success of it.
Can you talk us through the sequencing of what happens now? I mean, obviously we're a few days before the official signing ceremony in Geneva, but as I understand it, the Americans said the Strait of Hormuz will open. Well, it opened last night. The blockade which the Americans had in place has already been lifted. Do we take it then that some of the assets that have been frozen have been unlocked as well, or will that be dependent on the compliance of the Iranians?
I think it's not very clear because Iranians have claimed that the deal is also that part of Iranian asset will be defrozen, but the Americans have denied it. So there's not a clarity about whether it would happen. But certainly, and I think it's not yet a peace deal. It cannot be described as a peace deal. It's a memorandum of understanding the two countries have agreed to, which will lead to a comprehensive dialogue. And I think lots will depend actually what happens during that talk. There's certainly a positive development that some of the issues have been resolved, and that will lead to a longer ceasefire. But I think it's still a long way to go, and it's not certain that whether they will be able to reach a permanent peace.
What we're hearing is that there will be toll-free passage through the Strait of Hormuz, and of course that will take several weeks to get up to speed, because we don't know what mines have been placed in that critical waterway. And also we should say that when it comes to the nuclear issue, that the most substantive issues, the Iranians really haven't recoiled from the position that they had in February. They've never given up their right to enrich uranium. So it would be fair to assume, would it, Zahid, that the 60-day period we're talking about could well be extended maybe into months, possibly even a year of negotiations.
Yeah, sure. There has been a contradictory versions of what is in the deal from Iranian side and the American side. Yes, actually, that in the initial agreement, nuclear issue is not there, but certainly it will be the major point in the discussion in Geneva, which will start on Friday. So I think probably it's going to be a very tricky issue. It's not going to be resolved so easily, and we have seen the past too. But given the huge distrust between the two countries is going to be very difficult. And you're right, actually, it may not be weeks. It may go on for months and maybe for a year. What we have witnessed the process way back in 2015 when a nuclear deal was reached between United States and plus P5 countries and Iran. It took years, and I think probably that may go on for months at least here.
Mr. Hussein? Yeah. Zahid Hussein, we'll have to draw it there because we are up against it, but thank you very much indeed for that. We'll bring you plenty more reaction from here in Evian as the day unfolds.